Hey guys, this week on Lady K Sailing, there's a big hole in the boat. So you joined me in the V-berth, and I want to show you guys two things in this locker. One is when Lady K almost sunk, when I almost lost the boat in the Bahamas, is one of the things that's in this locker. And then the other thing is the depth transducer that we're going to actually be talking about today. So I'm going to show you. So that is the speed paddle wheel, and that black thing that's in there is the speed paddle wheel. And when the boat almost sunk, you can actually watch that if you click the thing there. When the boat almost sunk and I almost lost her, that speed paddle wheel came shooting up into the hull, into this locker, and left a big hole where it was, and the water was flowing in. And it was sort of the last through hull that I checked. I checked like the sink and the toilet and all that kind of through hull stuff that you would normally check, but I did not check that one until last. And by that time, the water was about here. So quite a ways. Anyway, I did a temporary fix when I was in the Bahamas because I was in Black Point, where there's no marine shop, there's no airport, there's no nothing. So I used what I had and what I could get my hands on. And what I did, I'll show you again, was I put it back in there, and when you thread the cap down, when you thread it down, it would thread about 3 spins and then it would skip back to the top. So the threads were just buggered. So what I did was I coated the whole thing with 5200, I coated the threads with 5200, and I screwed it back in. And 5200 will cure when wet. And that's important because the boat was in the water and there was nowhere to haul out. So I threaded it back down with 5200, and it actually got like 8 or 10 turns with the 5200. It filled whatever buggered spot in the threads was there. And it went all the way down, and I let the 5200 cure, and then I mounted the board that you see here from wall to wall directly on top of the through hull. So even if the 5200 gave up, it can't go up because that board's in the way. So that's been the fix since the Bahamas, since 2019 when the boat tried to sink, and it's been fine. But new problem now. I'm actually going to remove that speed paddle wheel entirely. I don't want it there. I have no use for a knot meter like that. I use GPS speed, which is just fine by me. So that's one subject, and that's not the subject of this video. The subject of this video is the big hole that you see right there, where you can see the ground. So that was the depth transducer. And if you follow on Facebook, you would have seen these pictures. So what you're seeing is the bottom of the depth transducer from outside, and you see how it's all chipped away and mangled, and it didn't look good when I was inspecting the boat about a week ago. So I came inside to this locker and gave it a little shake, and it was, I don't know, not solid, like not wiggly, but not solid. So I'm going to show you how that works. Okay, this is the old depth transducer. So it fires the depth shot, or the sonar, or whatever you want to call it, downward, and then it sends it up the cable to tell you how deep it is. So what this did is it went up through the bottom of the boat, through that hole, and it sits inside that hole, pretty much flush with the hull. And you'll notice there's no flange on it. There's nothing to stop it from shooting up into the boat at all. It can come straight up, no problem. So when it comes into the boat, it goes into this block sort of a thing. Okay. And then there's a nut on there so that it doesn't fall down. The problem with this arrangement is there's nothing stopping this transducer from shooting up into the hull as it hits waves and bashes and whatever else. So 41 years ago, when they made this boat, they chose to use a transducer with no flange on it. So a flange would have a ring around it so that it can't go up. Well, to get around that, its ability to go up, they take this block of wood and they obviously glued it to the floor. You can see all the glue on here. So they glued it to the floor above the hole, and this glue has held for 41 years. But when I gave it a little wiggle to see what was going on underneath and why it was like looking chipped and not very good, the whole thing started moving. So I pried it up. I actually took the nut off, gave this a couple taps with a hammer, depth sounder dropped out onto the ground, and I was left with a hole. And I was like, what? Why doesn't it have a flange? Why isn't it like sandwiched on either side of the hull? But it's not. It's a flangeless through hull, which scares me a lot. So you can see it's also a V shape. That part of the hull is not flat. So if you just buy a depth transducer right now that has a flange, you could sandwich it on either side of the hull and you'd be fine. Except mine is a V shape right there. And of course on the outside, is also a V shape. It's not a flat spot. So how to fix this is sort of a big question that I have. I did a lot of research, I did a lot of thinking, and I want to use a flange style through hull. I want to have a depth sounder, and I want it to be right there. A lot of people argue, why don't you put it somewhere else? I put a lot of thought into that, a lot of research, and a lot of different ideas together. And the best idea is still to use that spot with a flange style. So when the flange style tries to sandwich the hull, and the hull's a V, I will need some sort of a spacer to equal out the V on either side so that it sandwiches properly. And I've given a lot of thought to that. I thought about using starboard and making sort of plastic machined washers that are the shape of the V on one side and flat on the other, and vice versa on the other side. I thought about building it up with fiberglass or some sort of a epoxy-based hardening fairing compound kind of thing. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do yet. The big question I have is how long is the new through hull? Because I need a lot of sort of pipe on it to accommodate that V and whatever I use to build it up. So I ordered something. We're going to take a look. Okay, so this came today. It is a Recoring I-40, and it has the transducer through hull and the screen, and it comes with 30 feet of wire to get from one to the other, but they're just spade connectors, so if you had to sort of make it longer, you could. So let's take a look at what's in the box. Okay, so this is the actual, the brain, the unit, the display, what you're going to see when you look for your depth. So it's a nice unit. It feels heavy, it feels nice, it feels of good quality. The connections are all in the back. It does the new C-Talk thing that Recoring's doing now. Comes with all the fittings and different stuff like that. Yeah, I think this will be the easy part. Figure out where to mount this, get it mounted, and then run the wire. So I'm not too worried about that. I've done a lot of stuff like that. That's not a huge deal. The bigger deal that we wanted to talk about was how deep is the through hull, because we have a lot of hull to get through, and then spacers and washers and things. So this is the through hull that it comes with, the 30 feet of cable. So there it is. That's the depth sounder. And we don't have a lot to work with here. Like, what is that? Maybe 3 inches, a little more than 3 inches. We're going to have to figure out how to put a washer on this on both sides, and it's not very long. So I don't know if my plan's going to work. I guess let's find out. I'm alone here too, so when I put this thing up through the bottom of the boat and then come up top to put the nut on to see what the fitment is, no one's going to be on the underside to hold this. So I was thinking I might tape it. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Doesn't fit. So somebody laid up some, I don't know what it is, some sort of a hardening compound to sort of make a bubble around the old one. And we're gonna have to do a little sanding to get this guy to fit. There's really only 2 sizes to these things. You have like the 1 inch or the 2 inch, and obviously this hole's not 1 inch. So I grabbed the 2 inch through hull, and obviously that doesn't work. So we're gonna have to do some sanding, and that's okay. Okay, a little sanding. We got it down to, there's actually an air spot there from the original layup that was void, and as soon as I started sanding it, it chipped some fiberglass out. But I also took the edge off on either end to hopefully make it a little bit of flatter surface and need less of a grommet, or not a grommet, a washer. Oh, dirty job. Should be wearing a mask. Wear a mask. All right, let's probably have to make this hole bigger. I hope I brought the Dremel. Okay, so as you saw, it didn't fit. I'm sweaty as yeah. So I hand sanded the hole to make the thing fit, because it wasn't an exact 2 inches. So I hand sanded it from inside, and now I think we're okay. So you can kind of see the nature of my problem. When it's flush, it's not flush. See there? So I gotta come up with some kind of washer on the outside to make up that gap, and a washer on the inside to make up the gap because it's a V inside. So let's go look at it inside and see what's up. I guess I'll put the nut on. Okay, so when I was giving this some thought before, my original thought was on the outside I would make a washer, and I would mill it out of starboard hard plastic, and I would mill the V into it and make it fit perfectly on the bottom of the hull and just keep milling it until it actually fits perfectly with the 2-inch hole, and make it as shallow as possible because that shaft isn't all that long. So that'll work on the outside. On the inside, I was actually going to build it up with fiberglass, with mat. In the V, I was going to build the V up and then take a block the same width as the nut and block sand it so I get a nice straight path that's nice and flat right over the hole. Well, a little bit wider than the nut, maybe a 1/4 inch wider than the nut itself, so the nut can seat onto the build-up. And that way on the top you end up with a flat surface, and on the bottom you end up with a V, but you have a washer that sort of seals it all, and then obviously coat the whole thing in 4200. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm gonna go hang out with Jay for a minute. Hey, Jay's recoring his boat, his Hughes 38, so I'm gonna go hang out down there for a minute. Maybe I'll bring the camera and I'll show you guys what he's up to. What you doing, Jay?
Coring.
Coring.
Yeah.
Oh my.
England.
Nice.
Yeah. Here, maybe I'll hold it. Yeah, that stuff's in already. Working on front here now.
Is it easy to work with?
Easy enough, yeah. You just gotta watch your timing, like how much you're doing at a time, because the stuff sets up. Like it says 50 to 60 minutes for the putty stuff.
Yeah.
The bedding compound.
Yeah.
But really you got like 20 minutes tops.
So that goes under every tile?
Yeah, that goes under every piece, and then you put it in. But before you do that, see how it's got like this fiberglass mat?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to coat this with just clear polyester resin.
Yeah.
I needed that piece.
It's breezy. Man, look at all the spots too.
One's hooking up.
Yeah. You got like 2 spots at the back of the coach top, the whole coach top,
Yeah.
the front of the coach top. Holy moly.
Yeah, the gaps I'm gonna fill with, I think, thickened polyester resin.
Yeah.
With like some fiberglass, chopped strand fiberglass.
Yeah. Nice.
And I left a gap around the edge of the window because I'm gonna just completely fill that edge with thickened epoxy.
Yeah, that way if the window ever leaks or the hatch ever
It
leaks.
goes right through into the boat, not
Yeah,
into the core.
not into the core. Yeah. Is this stuff, the foam, is it more durable when the water gets to it, like as opposed to balsa?
It's yeah, it's more durable in the sense that it won't rot nearly as fast as wood.
Yeah.
Like it's basically plastic, so that the chance of it rotting is slim to none. Under pressure, it can crack and disintegrate.
Yeah.
But that's why you don't put it around like the high stress areas.
Yeah, yeah. That you're just going to do thickened resin.
Yeah, like I'm gonna put some in here, but like it's already got it's thick and shit already around there. So I'm just leaving that.
All right.
It's good.
Sweet.
Yeah, and it goes down after this. This is before layers of fiberglass.
Yeah.
Beveled the edges already.
Work, 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 work.
Yeah. It's coming along though.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously we need to make a washer on the outside, because you see, there's just enough room to mill a washer. So you guys know I love using plastic, like hard, dense plastic. So here we go. This is what we're going to use. So the eagle eye viewer will know that used to be a cutting board. I've actually used a lot of pieces out of that thing to make different shims and stuff like that. So I just need to find a 2-inch hole saw, cut a hole in the middle, and then use the skill saw I bought today to cut out the sort of maybe rectangle that we're going to use to make the washer. And then start to mill it down by sanding it. It sands really well, that plastic, so sand it down and mill it to the point where it's the perfect shape of the hull. Okay guys, so I got my piece of plastic and I got a 2-inch hole cut out of it, and you know, put a little bit of space, measured it all out. I'm gonna just cut it out as a square and start milling it.